Today I'm going to be reading Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne. Chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the story begins. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, bump, bump on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. But sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyway, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you, Winnie the Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you were going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't. But you said, he's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what the means? Ah, yes, now I do, I said quickly, and I hope you do too, because it's all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of sorts when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening... What about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell the Winnie the Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like one? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself, under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had a name above the door in gold letters and lived under it. Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. One day, when he was walking, he came to an open place in the middle of a forest, and in the middle of this place was a larger oak tree, and from the top of the tree there was a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing without it meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, someone's making a buzzing noise, and the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. He thought another long time, and then said, and the only reason for being a bee I know of is making honey. Then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so that I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed and climbed and climbed, and as he climbed he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, 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 I wonder why he does. He climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further, by the time he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought, that if bees were bears, they'd build their nest at the bottom of trees, or that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time, which is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now. If he just stood on that branch, crack! Oh, help, said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. If only I hadn't, he said, as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. Of course, it was rather, he admitted, as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided, as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into the gorse bush. It all comes to liking honey so much. Oh, help! Good, my microphone is still working. He crawled out for the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose and began to think again, and the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. "Was that me?" said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. "That was you." Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived in a green door in another part of the forest. "Good morning, Christopher Robin," he said. "Good morning, Winnie the Pooh," said you. I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you." "A balloon?" "Yes. I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing of a balloon about him. I just kept thinking to myself, balloons and wondering." "What do you want a balloon for?" you said. Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that no one was listening, put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get balloons with honey." "I do," said Pooh. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before, at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had left balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of the rabbit's relations had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party after all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. "Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you're part of the tree and not notice you. If you have a blue balloon, they might think you're part of the sky and not notice you. The question is, which is most likely?" "Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" you asked. "They might, or they might not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You can never tell with bees." He thought for a moment and then said, "I shall try and look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." "Then you'd better have the blue balloon," you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon and took your gun with you, just in case, as you always did, and Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of and rolled until he was black all over, and then, when the balloon was up and blown up as big and big, you and Pooh were holding on to the string. You let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the air and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. "Hooray!" he shouted. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh down to you. "What do I look like?" "You look like a bear holding a balloon," you said. "Not," said Pooh anxiously, not like a small black cloud in the sky." "Not very much." "Ah, well, perhaps from up there it looks different. As I say, you can never tell with bees." There was no wind to blow him nearer the tree, and so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello." "I think the bees suspect something." "What sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me they're suspicious." "Perhaps they think you're after their honey." "It may be that. You can never tell with bees." There was another silence, and he called down to you again. "Christopher Robin?" "Yes." "Have you an umbrella in your house?" "I think so." "I wish you'd bring it out here and walk up and down with it, and then look at me every now and again, and then say, 'Tut, tut, tut, it looks like rain.' I think if you did that, it would help the deception that we are practicing on these bees." Well, you laughed to yourself. Silly old bear. But you didn't say it aloud because you were so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella. "Oh, there you are," called down Winnie the Pooh as soon as he got back to the tree. "I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up? You said. Yes, but wait a moment, we must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which is a queen bee from down there? No? A pity. Well, now if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, "Tut tut, it looks like rain," I shall see what I can do by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go. So, while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. The bees were buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left the nest and flew around the cloud, and it began to get the second verse of the song, and one bee sat in the nose of a cloud for a moment, and then got up again. "Christopher, ow, Robin!" called out the cloud. "Yes?" I've been thinking, and I've come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sets of bees." "Are they?" "Quite the wrong sort. So I think they should make the wrong sort of honey, shouldn't you?" "Would they?" "Yes, I think I shall come down." "How?" asked you. Winnie the Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go on the string, he would fall. Bump! And he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, "Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun?" "Of course I have," you said. "But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon." "But if you don't," said Pooh, "I shall have to let it go, and that will spoil me." When he puts it like this, you saw how it was. You aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. "Ow!" said Pooh. "Did I miss?" you asked. "You didn't exactly miss," said Pooh, "but you missed the balloon." "I'm so sorry," you said, and you fired again. And this time you hit the balloon, and the air came out slowly, and Winnie the Pooh floated to the ground. Whee! "Is that the end of the story?" asked Christopher Robin. "That's the end of that one. There are others. About Pooh and me. And Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember?" "I do remember, but then when I try to remember, I forget." "That day Pooh and Piglet caught the heffalump. They didn't catch it, did they?" "No." "Pooh couldn't because he didn't have any brain. Did I catch it?" "Well, that comes into the story." Christopher Robin nodded. "I do remember. Pooh doesn't very well, and that's why he likes it having told to him again. Because then it's a real story and not just remembering." "That's just how I feel," I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked up his bread bear by the leg, and walked to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, "Coming to see me have my bath?" "I might," I said. "I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I?" "Not a bit." He nodded and went out, and in that moment I heard Winnie the Pooh, bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him.